Good morning. Welcome to Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangout. My name's Sandy Levesque, your host today, and this is a hangout which is all about, it's like a book group, basically reading from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which if you haven't read it before, or if you might already be watching these hangouts, it's an amazing book all about the world's greatest entrepreneurs about 100 years ago, and it's actually been the most in-depth study, I would say, of successful entrepreneurs and business people that's ever been done, because the author interviewed over 500 people, and the project was started by the equivalent of Richard Branson back then, Andrew Carnegie, who wanted a philosophy of success to be passed on because he had started from nothing. And one of the things that helped him become very successful was somebody opening up their library every Saturday and allowing boys in the factory that he worked in when he was a teenager to go and read books. And this had planted a seed in Andrew Carnegie's mind that he could do something bigger than what he had always known, because he grew up in a very poor family, moved to America when he was young, didn't go to school, worked from a very young age, and books had helped him to dream of something different. And he wanted to help create a book that would do that for people coming after him. So it's pretty amazing. 100 years later, I was actually watching a hangout with, well, it was an interview with Bob Proctor yesterday, and he was talking about how the person asked him, what's the best way? And if you don't know who Bob Proctor is, he's a major speaker in the personal development industry, has worked with thousands of people, helped a lot of people, and he was asked, what's your biggest advice for becoming successful in the industry? And the interview was about network marketing, but you can apply this to anything. And he said, the biggest thing I recommend is to find one thing that's working, one system, and to become a total student of it, not just to read it or listen to it once, but to become a student of it. And for him, he said, that one thing was Think and Grow Rich. And he pulled out a copy of his book, which he has read now for probably going on 50 years. And he said he reads a bit every single day, because every single day it gives him a new perspective on something. And when Bob Proctor started reading this book, he was in debt, probably about $20,000 worth of debt now, I'd say. And he applied the book and began changing his life. And within a year had created exactly what he put in his statement. And he also put it on a card, which he carried around with him all the time. So I just wanted to pass that on to you, because this is really a magical book. So if you're watching and you'd like to come on to the Hangout, you're welcome to join. So just click on the first link I've just posted in the Facebook group. And if you don't know what the Facebook group is, then read the description in this event, and it will take you there. And you can just ask to join it, and we'll approve you, and you'll be in. Okay, so we're reading from chapter 2, which is all about a burning desire, one of the main principles of this philosophy of success, and how to have a burning desire. Because you might think, well, yeah, that's pretty obvious. You need to be really passionate about doing something, but how do I don't feel passionate, or I don't have a burning desire. How can I create that? And so this chapter is a brilliant way to get some great tips on how to do that. So I'm just going to share my screen here and go to the book. And as it's the summer holidays, a lot of people who normally come on aren't around as much. So just me today, it seems. But if you are watching, you'd like to come on, you're very welcome to. So I'll just check that the Facebook group has the... So this is the Facebook group. I don't think many of you guys are online right now. Okay, so we're on page 37. So verily, a burning desire has devious ways of transmuting itself into its physical equivalent. Blair desired... Oh, okay. So we were talking about Blair, Napoleon Hill's son, who was born without any ears or even any holes in his head to hear through. And he overcame this by not being brought up with the idea that he had a disability. His father didn't talk about it in that way, and told him that it could actually be an advantage, and put this desire in his mind that he would be able to live a normal life. Didn't even teach him sign language. So this is when he says Blair, that's who he's talking about. So he says Blair desired normal hearing. Now he has it. He was born with a handicap which might easily have sent one with a less defined desire to the street with a bundle of pencils and a tin cup. That handicap now promises to serve as the medium by which he will render useful service to many millions of hard of hearing, also to give him useful employment at adequate financial compensation the remainder of his life. The little white lies I planted in his mind when he was a child, by leading him to believe his affliction would become a great asset which he could capitalize, has justified itself. Verily, there is nothing right or wrong which belief plus burning desire cannot make real. These qualities are free to everyone. In all my experience in dealing with men and women who had personal problems, I never handled a single case which more definitely demonstrates the power of desire. Authors sometimes make the mistake of writing out subjects of which they have but superficial or very elementary knowledge. It has been my good fortune to have had the privilege of testing the soundness of the power of desire through the affliction of my own son. Perhaps it was providential that the experience came as it did, for surely no one is better prepared than he to serve as an example of what happens when desire is put to the test. If Mother Nature bends to the will of desire, is it logical that mere people can defeat a burning desire? Strange and imponderable is the power of the human mind. We do not understand the method by which it uses every circumstance, every individual, every physical thing within its reach as a means of transmuting desire into its physical counterpart. Perhaps science will uncover this secret. I planted in my son's mind the desire to hear and to speak as any normal person hears and speaks. That desire has now become a reality. I planted in his mind the desire to convert his greatest handicap into his greatest asset. That desire has been realized. The modus operandi by which this astounding result was achieved is not hard to describe. It consisted of three very definite facts. First, I mixed faith with the desire for normal hearing, which I passed on to my son. Second, I communicated my desire to him in every conceivable way available, through persistent, continuous effort over a period of years. Third, he believed me. As this chapter was being completed, news came of the death of Madame Schumann Heink. One short paragraph in the news dispatch gives the clue to this unusual woman's stupendous success as a singer. I quote the paragraph because the clue it contains is none other than desire. Early in her career, Madame Schumann Heink visited the director of the Vienna Court Opera to have him test her voice. But he did not test it. After taking one look at the awkward and poorly dressed girl, he exclaimed, none too gently, "With such a face and with no personality at all, how can you ever expect to succeed in opera? My good child, give up the idea, buy a sewing machine and go to work. You can never be a singer." Never is a long time. The director of the Vienna Court Opera knew much about the technique of singing. He knew little about the power of desire, when it assumes the proportion of an obsession. If he had known more of that power, he would not have made the mistake of condemning genius without giving it an opportunity. Several years ago, one of my business associates became ill. He became worse as time went on, and finally was taken to the hospital for an operation. Just before he was wheeled into the operating room, I took a look at him, and wondered how anyone as thin and emaciated as he could possibly go through a major operation successfully. The doctor warned me that there was little, if any, chance of me ever seeing him alive again. But that was the doctor's opinion. It was not the opinion of the patient. Just before he was wheeled away, he whispered feebly, "Do not be disturbed, Chief. I will be out of here but in a few days." The attending nurse looked at me with pity, but the patient did come through safely. After it was all over, his physician said, nothing but his own desire to live saved him. He would never have pulled through if he had not refused to accept the possibility of death. I believe in the power of desire backed by faith because I have seen this power lift men from lowly beginnings to places of power and wealth. I have seen it rob the grave of its victims. I have seen it serve as the medium by which men stage a comeback after having been defeated in 100 different ways. I have seen it provide my own son with a normal, happy, successful life. despite nature's having sent him into the world without ears? How can one harness and use the power of desire? This has been answered through this and the subsequent chapters of this book. This message is going out to the world at the end of the longest and perhaps most devastating depression America has ever known. It is reasonable to presume that the message may come to the attention of many who have been wounded by the depression, who have lost their fortunes, who others have lost their positions, and great numbers who must reorganize their plans and stage a comeback. To all these, I wish to convey the thought that all achievement, no matter what may be its nature or its purpose, must begin with an intense, burning desire for something definite. Through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never divulged, nature wraps up in the impulse of strong desire that something which recognizes no such word as impossible and accepts no such reality as failure. Okay, I'll read a bit from chapter 3. So faith, visualization of, and belief in attainment of desire. The second step toward riches. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought and the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, it translates it into its spiritual equivalent and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. The emotions of faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of all the major positive emotions. When the three are blended, they have the effect of coloring the vibration of thought in such a way that it instantly reaches the subconscious mind, where it is changed into its spiritual equivalent, the only form that induces a response from infinite intelligence. Love and faith are psychic, related to the spiritual side of man. Sex is purely biological, and related only to the physical. The mixing or blending of these three emotions has the effect of opening a direct line of communication between the finite thinking mind of man and infinite intelligence. How to develop faith. There comes now a statement which will give a better understanding of the importance of the principle of autosuggestion, of the importance the principle of autosuggestion assumes in the transmutation of desire into its physical or monetary equivalent, namely faith. It is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion. As an illustration, consider the purpose for which you are presumably reading this book. The object is, naturally, to acquire the ability to transmute the intangible thought impulse of desire into its physical counterpart, money. By following the instructions laid down in the chapters on autosuggestion and the subconscious mind as summarized in the chapter on autosuggestion, you may convince the subconscious mind that you believe you will receive that for which you ask, and it will act upon that belief, which your subconscious mind passes back to you in the form of faith, followed by definite plans for procuring that which you desire. The method by which one develops faith, where it does not already exist, is extremely difficult to describe, almost as difficult, in fact, as it would be to describe the color of red to a blind man who has never seen color, and has nothing with which to compare what you describe to him. Faith is a state of mind which you may develop at will, after you have mastered the 13 principles, because it is a state of mind which develops voluntarily, through application and use of these principles. Repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. Perhaps the meaning may be clearer through the following explanation, as to the way some men become criminals. Stated in the words of a famous criminologist, when men first come into contact with crime, they abhor it. If they remain in contact with crime for a long time, they become accustomed to it and endure it. If they remain in contact with it for long enough, they finally embrace it and become influenced by it. This is the equivalent of saying that any impulse of thought which is repeatedly passed on to the subconscious mind is finally accepted and acted upon by the subconscious mind, which proceeds to translate that impulse into its physical equivalent by the most practical procedure available. In connection with this, consider again the statement, all thoughts which have been emotionalized, given feeling, and mixed with faith begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent or counterpart. The emotions or the feeling portion of thoughts are the factors which give thoughts vitality, life, and action. The emotions of faith, love, and sex, when mixed with any thought impulse, give greater action than any of these emotions can do singly. Not only thought impulses which have been mixed with faith, but those which have been mixed with any of the positive emotions or any of the negative emotions may reach and influence the subconscious mind. From this statement, you will understand that the subconscious mind will translate into its physical equivalent a thought impulse of a negative or destructive nature, just as readily as it will act upon thought impulses of a positive or negative nature. This accounts for the strange phenomenon which so many millions of people experience, referred to as misfortune or bad luck. There are millions of people who believe themselves doomed to poverty and failure because of some strange force over which they believe they have no control. They are the creators of their own misfortunes because of this negative belief, which is picked up by the subconscious mind and translated into its physical equivalent. This is an appropriate place at which to suggest again that you may benefit by passing on to your subconscious mind any desire which you wish translated into its physical or monetary equivalent in a state of expectancy or belief that the transmutation will actually take place. Your belief or faith is the element which determines the action of your subconscious mind. There is nothing to hinder you from deceiving your subconscious mind when giving it instructions through autosuggestion, as I deceived my son's subconscious mind. To make this deceit more realistic, conduct yourself just as you would if you were already in possession of the material thing which you are demanding when you call upon your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind will transmute it into its physical equivalent by the most direct and practical media available. Any order which is given to it in a state of belief or faith that the order will be carried out. Surely enough has been stated to give a starting point from which one may, through experiment and practice, acquire the ability to mix faith with any order given to the subconscious mind. Perfection will come through practice. It cannot come by merely reading instructions. If it be true that one may become a criminal by association with crime, and this is known fact, it is equally true that one may develop faith by voluntarily suggesting to the subconscious mind that one has faith. The mind comes finally to take on the nature of the influences which dominate it. Understand this truth, and you will know what is essential for you to encourage the positive emotions as dominating forces of your mind, and discourage and eliminate negative emotions. A mind dominated by positive emotions becomes a favorable abode for the state of mind known as faith. A mind so dominated may, at will, give the subconscious mind instructions which it will accept and act on immediately. Okay, I'm going to stop there for now. Yeah, page 42. Okay, coming back. Cool. So, as I was reading that, I had so many examples of this popping into my mind, and I can just share actually. And if you're watching and you'd like to, because we have quite a few people watching, so feel free to leave a comment or Q&A, or even to come into the Hangout. Don't be shy. But basically, what I wanted to share is that when I first read this book, I had been taught that affirmations didn't really work because you was using your mind, and that it was kind of it didn't work because it was almost like a mental workout, but nothing really else would happen from it, and that it wasn't something that was useful. So I had been taught this in personal development, and so I read this, and I thought at the time, this is about probably 12 months ago, 13 months ago, I thought, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not sure that this is actually going to really do anything, because I need to work with the whole universe. I can't just do stuff that's only my mind, and this doesn't work. And I want to share with you that I've come to realize that that wasn't actually totally true, and that it was from immersing myself a little bit like the example of the criminals, immersing myself with entrepreneurs having success, that I began to notice a common theme, which was that many of the people I was starting to be associated with were had said that success, one of the reasons that they were now successful was because they kind of brainwashed themselves. You know, they continually affirmed things to themselves, or continually listened to specific things to sort of start to wash out everything in their brain which kept them believing they couldn't have success, or kept them having a really small life. And actually, as I was reading, two examples of this came to my mind. And the first one is a guy who was, he's about my age. He was very broke, living in a 450 square foot apartment, and just really struggling all the time, in a lot of debt. And he was doing an online business like me, and not having any success. And what he started to do was he started to say in his head something which he needed to do in his business. And he would say it, it's easy to help 2 people a day. It doesn't matter what the help is. You don't need to really understand that for this example. But, say that you're a massage therapist, or you're an artist. It could be, it's easy to sell 2 paintings a day. It's easy to sell 2 packages a day if you're a massage therapist. You can apply that just fine, whatever. It doesn't have to be 2 either. Just want to make this really clear. Just some kind of action that if you completed it every day would make your business become ultra successful. So this guy, who had been struggling for 5 years, he began saying this, and it wasn't the only thing. He also began using a specific thing on the internet. He changed the way he was doing things, but this was one of the things, and I think it's a really important part of it. He began saying in his head, it's easy to help 2 people a day. And I actually saw him mention this at a meeting where he was asked, what's one of your biggest pieces of advice that helped you have this mindset shift where you went from being struggling and average to having crazy success. He's now become a 7-figure earner. He's made over $1 million with what he does. And he said, well, I kept saying to myself, he said, for me, repetition is really key. So I kept saying to myself, it's easy to help 2 people a day. And he would say this all day long in his head. And I share this because he's now become a 7-figure earner. and he attributes that to his success. He's also the guy who first got me interested in reading this book, because he kept talking about it so much, how it helped him. And he did his statement, the written statement, and recorded it and listened to it every night as well. So he's one example. Another example, also online. I'm sorry, all my examples are on the internet because that's just what I do. So that's kind of what I'm immersed in. If I think of any other examples, Bob Proctor, who I mentioned at the beginning, is another example of this, because he reads Think and Grow Rich every single day and has done since the 60s, and he's a multi-millionaire, helped many people become millionaires. So he's another example of this repetition, repeating something to your mind until your mind has no choice but to just accept it as truth. That's how I see it. So the other example I was thinking of is actually a young guy, 21 I think, and he was also struggling on the internet, not having any success, and he began listening to a specific audio, and this audio was all about how you can speak the world into existence. And so he decided to listen to that audio every single day for 21 days, and at the end of it, something had shifted in him where he realized it was going to be a lot easier than he believed to have success on the internet. And so I just saw that recently, and I found that really interesting, because I actually listened to the same audio for 21 days too, for about a month, a year or so ago, and it helped me raise investment for what I was doing. I'd been really struggling to do that. And so as I listened to him, I thought, well, why did it not do anything else? And I realized that at that time, to me, that was the next step, was to be able to really create my own business, have almost like a franchise, and invest in it, and so that I've actually started listening to it again, because I would like to move to the next step in my business now. And so it's just that idea of repetition of something to your mind, that will gradually convince it that, that this, whatever you would like, is actually true. And so, I've now read my personal statement twice a day, in the morning when I wake up, and in the evening before I go to sleep. And that's from this book. You can do that too. It's the written statement. By the 27th of August, I will have in my possession $30,000 or greater, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time in the interim. It's, the formula is in the book. And I'm also learning the confidence statements, because that can also help you build more confidence in your ability to actually create the results you'd like. So that's what he's suggesting in the book with the term autosuggestion. Autosuggestion sounds a bit strange, but it basically means repeating something so many times that your mind, like I said earlier, has no choice but to accept it as a truth. And your reality starts to shift because you're changing inside. So I hope that helps. That's all we've got time for today. So if you don't have any kind of affirmation or statement that you're regularly reading to yourself, I really recommend that you do that. Just because I've seen a lot of people do that, and it's helped them, go way beyond normal levels of success and living, and so that's very possible. But we have to actually do that. And I would say reading this book won't be enough. You need to have some way of continually affirming to yourself that some target is possible. So I also do this thing of, it's easy to help 2 people a day. I have a couple actually, and I say those every day. And I do my written statement and the confidence statement. But that's more of that's kind of different. I'm talking about having something written out on paper that you read at least once a day, that's got your targets, that's from this book. And the second thing is more like a quick thing you can just say in your head. When you just think of it, just say it. And you can even put post-it notes around your house. Actually, one final little story I can share that's quite funny. Another person on the internet, a woman this time, her boyfriend was sharing recently to friends of mine that he didn't do any of this stuff, and he had met her and he went to her house for the first time, and she had post-it notes all over her house saying, I can make this much a day, or I am a da-da-da earner, I am a 7-figure earner, or whatever. She had them all over her house. And he was like, wow, this is a bit weird. But then he found out that she was making, well over $30,000 every single month, and she's in fact become a $1 million leader now online. And so he was like, aha, she's got all these weird notes around her house, but she's making more money in a month than most people I know are making a year. And that's something Bob Proctor talks about. What if you can turn your annual salary into your monthly salary, and your monthly salary into your weekly salary? And that's just, to a lot of people, seems impossible. But this book is a philosophy to help you start to make that happen. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back here at the same time tomorrow. Again, if you'd like to join in the Hangout, you're very welcome to. We'll be at the same time now. It did change a week ago because I moved to a new time zone, and it was just easier to keep this time zone. I thought it might also be easier for people in New York and America who have actually been getting up really early to be on the Hangout. So we're now at 12:15 Central Europe time, 11:15 English time, and 6:15 New York time. So have a great day, everyone. Remember that you can create a burning desire and brainwash your mind to accept no other outcome except whatever it is you would like to create, in the same way that that guy didn't die because he did refuse to die, and in the same way that criminals become criminals, you can do the same thing, but to the other extreme, becoming successful. So have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.